So thrilled to be able to see so many people here interested in exercise. I've been in this field for a number of years now. And I think that we finally had the momentum to make a real change in oncology and make sure that exercise becomes a part of standard care, because I think that's been many of our career goals, and I think we're just about there, if not there now. Dr. Cornier provided great evidence regarding the benefits of exercise for patients with cancer. And what I wanted to do was provide a little bit of context regarding some of the guidelines, because we've come quite a distance since we first started in this area of research. Now, as he alluded to, this area of research is probably only 20 to 30 years old, which is pretty young relative to many areas of research. And I think that the key thing to note is that only recently have we been given the guidelines to move forward with prescribing exercise on a wide-scale basis. When I first started in my graduate career, we were trying to do exercise interventions for prostate cancer patients, and we didn't have very much guidelines to work with at all. In fact, what we were using were guidelines from the cardiovascular societies that were describing exercise safety in those groups, and we figured if it was safe for them, then it should be safe for us. But we were really working in uncharted territories because we didn't know whether or not what we were doing had any significant consequences with cancer survivors. There were a few studies published here and there that gave us some indication that some low levels of exercise and low intensity activities were beneficial, but we really didn't have our own guidelines. So it's really just been, as Dr. Cornier noted in his slide, since 2010, which is only 4 short years ago, that the American College of Sports Medicine has come up with guidelines to dictate how we prescribe exercise to our patients. And only 2 years ago have those guidelines been published in an oncology journal or by an oncology society. So this is a really new area, and so the key that I think we need to kind of understand is that from the time we started, although nothing's changed in terms of the guidelines, they're very similar to those in cardiovascular care, everything has changed because now we have guidelines that are specific to cancer. And those have given us the credibility to move forward with exercise prescriptions for patients. Now, maybe I'll speak briefly about the specific activities that one might want to do if they're considering an exercise program. So, there are a number of different areas of exercise that you might be considering. Aerobic exercise is that type of exercise that gets your heart pumping harder, it gets you sweating, you're typically out of breath when you're exercising. So that's cardiovascular exercise, cardio or aerobic exercise. And the general guidelines around aerobic exercise are pretty broad, but they give a lot of flexibility to allow you to get starting within the guidelines and progress towards the upper end. So 3 to 7 days per week of aerobic exercise is what's been demonstrated in the literature. And that exercise is generally done at a moderate intensity. So moderate intensity is pretty similar to what we just did there with Barbara. You want to be moving, you want your heart to be beating, you're starting to get a little sweaty, but the idea here is that your heart is pumping a little harder than it is at rest, and you can progress it until you're probably too out of breath to be holding a conversation continuously. That's kind of called the talk test, as we simply refer to. So a moderate intensity of aerobic exercise most days of the week for at least about 10 minutes. The literature suggests that there are a number of benefits from accumulated bouts of 10 minutes or more throughout the day. So if you're not necessarily feeling up to an exercise bout of 15, 20, 30 minutes and greater, then even a short bout of 10 minutes done repeatedly can improve a number of outcomes that you might be experiencing. Now, the other area of exercise that people often consider is resistance training. So resistance training includes those exercises where you would use weights or resistance bands or maybe even your body weight. And the idea here is that you're trying to strengthen certain muscle groups so that you can perform better at various activities, whether it's the activity itself, if you're going to play a sport, or maybe it helps with carrying groceries or doing some household chores. The idea is to build up enough muscular strength so that you can do those activities. And so the literature there suggests that 2 to 5 days per week, at again a moderate intensity, seems to provide a number of benefits. We want to provide our muscle groups with about 48 hours of rest if you've been doing a relatively intense bout of exercise with a group of muscles. But the idea here again is that we can improve a number of outcomes with a fairly mild dose of resistance training. And this has all been suggested as quite safe. The adverse event rates in the oncology population are quite low, lower than in some of the cardiovascular populations. So it is a very safe healthy lifestyle behavior to engage in. And the other area of exercise that we don't want to forget about, but sometimes gets neglected, is stretching. So stretching helps us get in and out of the car more easily. It helps us reach for things on the top shelf or grab things down from the low shelf. Helps us tie our shoelaces and all of those things that we maybe take for granted quite often. So you can stretch virtually every day. The idea is you want to stretch to the point of tension, but not necessarily to the point of pain. You want to hold that stretch to upwards about 15 to 30 seconds. And the idea here is that stretch those muscle groups that you would use often. And if you're going to be exercising, a nice dynamic stretching activity where you're loosening up the muscles that you're going to be using during your aerobic activity or resistance training is a good idea to prevent any injuries. Now, there are a number of different caveats, as Dr. Cornier suggested, regarding exercise for different treatment scenarios and different diseases. It's very difficult to pull these all together and provide some detailed guidelines regarding every specific exercise for a particular type of cancer at a particular stage of the disease, undergoing a particular type of treatment. But one key thing to consider is that exercise has been demonstrated as safe and effective at every stage during the cancer continuum, and that you can significantly benefit from working with an exercise professional who has some experience in oncology. You really do want to work with someone who's worked in that field because they'll understand your particular needs very, very well. They'll understand the exercises that you might need to be accustomed to carry on with the activities that you're looking to carry on with and the goals that you may have. But in general, exercise has been demonstrated as very safe. In terms of the guidelines, they're very broad, but they're absolutely achievable even if you start off with a little bit. A little bit is more than nothing. In fact, it's a lot more than nothing. So if you can just get up and do 5 minutes and work your way up to 10 minutes, up to 15 minutes, and you can do that repeatedly, and even if you do these things within the context of your daily activities, exercise doesn't necessarily have to be something that you go to the gym and sweat it out and duke it out on the machines. It doesn't have to be miserable. It could be as it's never miserable, really. I mean, we all love exercise, but try to do something that you enjoy. Go for a walk. I often tell the people I work with to just go for a walk throughout the neighborhoods, check out the gardens, check out what's happening at the local shops, just skate around. Maybe go shopping, maybe walk through the malls without your wallet. It becomes a lot cheaper if you don't bring your wallet. But the idea is that all exercise is good exercise. If you have some time, hopefully you can join us for some of the We Can Move events today, the walks and the group exercise class, and we can go through a few routines that'll get you warmed up to exercise and hopefully on your way to an exercise program that's sustainable. Thank you.